Hey guys, what's happening? It's Will, and I am back again for a long overdue update on the Freddy project build. I really should have done one sooner, but I wanted to include a little how-to on this video. And my last attempt at that was pretty much a disaster, and part of the reason was because I didn't have a good camera setup. And I just absolutely despise trying to do a job without having the right tools. So I wanted to get that figured out, and I had to order some stuff, and I'll show you that here in just a second. And then after that, I'll get into exactly where I'm at with the little ME262. But first, check this out for you guys who are interested in making your own videos yourself and you want to get the cool top-down workbench view. This might be a helpful information for you. Here's what I did. Okay, so check this out. I've got a new mount for my video camera, and this is the boom arm that Gil Mondragon turned me on to. It's actually just a microphone arm for people who podcast or whatever, and I've seen these for over $100 from places like B&H Photo, but Gil got me a link for it on eBay that was $15. And then I went to Amazon and I got this. Okay, this is the Joby ball head for about 25 bucks. And then these parts right here are from a company called Small Rig, and that was about another like maybe 20 bucks for those. And it's a little bit of overkill. Gil has his setup where he's just got a stem coming out of the bottom of the ball head and going straight into this, which eliminates the two pieces that I have there and is a little bit more efficient. But this gives me a little bit more adjustability, and now I can get that workbench view as if it's from where I'm actually sitting. And I can swivel the whole thing around to get any other view I want, pretty much. So I'm pretty stoked about this. I think it's going to be good, and hopefully it'll make my videos a little less hokey. Of course, there's still the fact that I'm in the videos. That's always going to be a problem, and sorry, dudes, you're just going to have to deal with that. Hey, I forgot to mention, the way that I attached this to the fitting on the boom arm is I took a quarter 20 bolt that's about 2 inches long and just cut the head off of it and put a lock nut on it. The standard, just in case you don't know this, the standard tripod mount that's on the bottom of this ball head and that's threaded into this rod right here is quarter 20 threads, so you can always make that happen pretty easy. Okay, so hopefully that's a good enough look at the parts I got. You know, you could do it with different parts. I just got what I felt would give me the most flexibility. I wanted to be able to aim the camera any which direction and be able to have it in multiple spots. So right now I've got it over there so that I can do this view, and I've got little yellow dots all over the mechanism so that I can return it to exactly the same spot. And then here in a second, I'm going to pull it over here, and we're going to attempt another go at the how to do something segment of this video, and a closer look at the ME262. All right, here we go. Okay, hopefully I've got this set up in a good vantage point where it's kind of like exactly what I'm seeing. And as you can see, right here is the little bird, and I've made a lot of progress. Like I said, a lot since the last time you saw it. I got obviously everything glued up and did all my body work and got into the painting. I actually did all of this green and the modeling yesterday afternoon. It was one of those days where I didn't really expect to get so far, but you know, momentum was going my way, and you know, you got to take advantage of that. When things are moving your direction, you gotta roll with it. So I feel like I feel pretty good about it. I feel like all of the practice that I did on my little P40 bench mule definitely paid off. You can also see that the decals are already on it, and I got to tell you, I love this painted in the field decal scheme because there's only a total of 10 of them and not a single stencil in the bunch. I mean, obviously, if this thing got painted in the field, there aren't going to be any of the usual, warning labels and don't step here and that type stuff. So that's kind of nice. Probably the quickest decal job I'll ever do. One thing that you may also figured out is that I put the decals directly on the paint without the benefit of a clear coat. Now, I know some of you guys are recoiling in horror at what I just said and the heresy of violating the process of always clear coating before you decal. But, like all rules, I think that there are situations where you can break those. The main reason that people want a decal on top of a clear coat is so that they don't get any silvering. 90% of the time, okay, I don't know that it's exactly 90, but let's just say most of the time, silvering happens because the surface underneath is just too rough. And more often than not, that's rough paint. And it doesn't really matter if it's a flat color or not. If the paint is smooth enough and you use a good decal setting solution like Solvaset, which I've used here, there's no reason that a decal won't lay down on that surface without any silvering. I mean, 30 years ago when I was a young guy making models, before anybody had ever even heard of acrylics, I was putting decals directly on flat enamel base coats with Solvaset and nothing else, and it worked fine. So again, it's really all about how smooth your paint is, and I work pretty hard to make sure that my paint is nice and smooth, and that enabled me to go straight to the decals in this case, and that's good because I don't like to have any more layers of clear coat on a model than I absolutely have to. So I'm pleased that I was able to get that done. Something else you may notice that I've been doing is a little bit of weathering. You can see in this area right here, what I'm trying to do is depict the fact that this aircraft is boarded from over here, and the pilot and ground crew are always walking around on this area, climbing all over the side of the cockpit. And I did some of the tricks with masking fluid and salt and lots of pre-shading that I did on my P40 bench mule. And obviously I can't show you that here because I've already painted over all of it, but I will put all that in the photographs so you can kind of see how I progressed through that. I'll also have all of those pictures up on my build thread on the ISM forum, so you can check them out there if you're curious. The other thing that I know I told you guys in the beginning was that this aircraft had the right engine replaced 2 days before it was destroyed. And so I've depicted that by painting it with camouflage scheme that's clearly from a different aircraft, and lots of traffic wear on top of the of that engine from the work activity. So hopefully that'll help tell the story. I went ahead and did a little bit of weathering with pastels and a little bit with a light black enamel wash, rather than waiting until after the next round of clear coat, because there are certain things that I know I'm going to want in there, and it's okay if I seal them in. And in the case of just a little bit of an enamel wash, that's not going to bother any of this paint. Most of this pastel is probably going to disappear when I put the clear coat on, but that's okay because it'll at least give me a foundation and I'll know where I'm at. And when I get around to the final weathering, I'll have a little bit better of idea of what I'm going to do. Speaking of clear coat, what I'm going to use on this one instead of my favorite Future is I'm going to use this Testors clear acrylic gloss. I've been using it a little bit. I use it on the Piper Cub, and it seems fine. I think it's probably pretty similar to All Clad Aqua Gloss. You can see in here that it's kind of a milky substance. It's not a great deal better than Future, but I did notice one day when I was testing my Hitaka paint on the bench mule with Future that I had a little bit of the infamous cobweb or spidering or whatever you want to call it, and I couldn't repeat that result even by doing the exact same thing the next day. But that was enough of a reason for me to say, okay, I've got Hitaka paint on here. No reason to take a chance when I've got this other gloss acrylic sitting right here, and so I'm going to use that instead of Future this time. And I think that will work out excellent. And I'll be doing that tomorrow. And then once I get that clear coat done and it's all nice and dry, then I'll move on to doing some washes and start the final weathering and taking care of all of the assembly of all the other bits like the landing gear and so forth. So that's where I'm at with the bird, and now I want to do a little bit of a quick how-to for you guys. Okay, this is going to be pretty quick. This is just going to be a quick little demonstration of how I use lead wire to create some of the details that you saw in my last update, where I used it for electrical and hydraulic lines in the landing gear bay. Now this is my lead wire that I got from Bass Pro Shops, like I told you about, and I'm just going to clip off a random little chunk of it here. Okay, now here's the first reason why I like this lead wire so much. It is just so easy to manipulate. I mean, it bends so perfectly, and it's just really painless to work with. It also, this is nice because some of this manipulation I do with it already glued in place. I'll tack down one end of it and then I'll start forming it in place, and that means that sometimes I have to cut it right there on site. And you can see even this 030, this is 030, it cuts super easy with a sharp hobby knife blade, so that's nice. The other thing that I've noticed about this wire, and I don't know why this is, I'm not enough of a chemist to understand it, but it seems like super glue sets on it much faster than it does with anything else, and that obviously can come in pretty handy. Okay, but let's get to the bending. All right, now if you're going to create a hydraulic line, you know that those start out as straight sections of tubing. And if you really want them to look realistic, you should start the same way. The problem is that when you take a piece of wire that's comes off the roll and it's slightly crooked like this, no matter how good a job you do of straightening it by bending it, it's just never going to get there. It's never going to be perfectly straight, and that's going to show in when you do the final installation. So here's how you resolve that real quickly. I've got this. This is my handy dandy little box that I keep all of my various bits of paraphernalia in for airbrushes, extra knife blades, different things like that. And it's got this ruby whetstone hot glued on top of it so that I can dress knife blades whenever I want to. And it serves a third purpose as my wire roller. And just like that, you've got a perfectly straight length of lead wire waiting to be bent into whatever shape you require. Now, here's how I go about doing that, because obviously you want to get nice tight bends. So again, this is where the workability of this stuff is super helpful. For a 90-degree bend, all I do is take it in my tweezers just like that, and then just roll it right over until it looks about right. And there you go, just like that. Instant hydraulic line. Okay, well that takes care of that. Hopefully you guys found that useful and interesting, and my new camera rig worked out good. I will cease and desist from running my mouth, and I'll show you guys some photographs and get you all caught up on how I've progressed to this point with the Tamiya ME262. And as always, I appreciate you guys watching. Much love.
Ayúdale a la movida, ayúdale a tanta música, anakuta la mewa vida, anakuta la mewa amor, ay cabina que te das una nana. Salimos y